This game was initially announced in 2016 as a collaboration between Cygames and Platinum Games. Eventually, Platinum dropped out and development of the game got severely delayed. It wasn't until last year when we finally got a release date and Granblue Fantasy Relink met the world on February 1 of 2024. This is my full review of it based on the PlayStation 5 version. I will cover the positive, the mixed, and the negative about it. First, I'd like to thank Cygames for providing me with a review code, as this is an action RPG I had been anticipating since its announcement. It's part of a media franchise actually, with a mobile game, an anime series, and 2 modern releases. It's not a follow-up to Granblue Fantasy Versus, which was a fighting game that also included a small 2D action RPG. Both this and Versus merely continue the many adventures of the Skyfarers, a group of warriors united by different causes, led by a male or a female captain. In Relink, you select between both, but story-wise nothing really changes, so it's just personal preference. The party here, however, is reduced to only a few main characters, while the rest of the cast are optional party members you get, but we'll talk about that during the gameplay section. So you play as the captain of the crew in a quest to reach the beautiful island of Estalucia. After meeting the enigmatic Roland though, a character that seems to have a hidden agenda, the crew gets dragged into a different conflict against a religious sect. Eventually, Lyria, who has the ability to summon the primal beast Bahamut, gets kidnapped and we're off to save her. I like how the story makes progress based on the conflict at hand, the main plot, meaning it focuses on it. I mean to say that it never forces side quests on you, giving you the freedom to pursue it as you see fit. You've no idea how much I'd like other modern JRPGs to be like this without throwing tons of side content at you. However, as a result, the main story can be completed in about 15 hours or so on normal difficulty. Obviously, easy and hard will make your playtime vary. I myself played on normal until the end. The story continues after the credits in the form of a post-game episode, but it's mostly quest-driven now. Obviously, it's quite challenging. Because of the variety of characters though, the game has great replayability, so let's talk about the gameplay now. It's an action RPG with up to 4 characters in battle. You can only control one though, the rest will be handled by the AI. There's no way to alter their behavior or strategy, so you'll have to trust the computer to fight accordingly. On normal mode, most of the time I noticed its fighting and tactics were decent, so I barely have any complaints about its behavior. No, you cannot switch between your allies during combat like in other JRPGs, and you can only change your playable character in towns or in the ship, not during the missions either. Every character controls very differently, which is the highlight of the game. Zeta here was my girl. I played through most of the game with her. Combat is absolutely amazing with nearly every single one of them. Controls feel very responsive, AI like I said is quite smart, and the sound effects make you immersed in the fighting even more. In other words, the battle system is quite polished and it diversifies with a unique ensemble of characters to deviate from the repetitive nature of action RPGs. Each character has a set of skills with cooldowns and up to 4 can be equipped in the button palette. The point is to create combos between the regular attacks and the strong attacks. Triggers are used to either guard or evade, but you can only evade 3 times in a row before the character stops for a short break. Attacking enemies earns you experience points. Yeah, you don't have to wait till they're dead to level up, you do so merely by fighting or completing missions, and thankfully, every single character levels up here even if they aren't in your active party. Again, that's a feature I believe every single JRPG in existence should have. Link attacks between characters are also possible. You trigger them by either exploiting a weakness or merely by attacking simultaneously an enemy. You can also break the enemies and beat the crap out of them for a short period of time. Everyone also has a burst bar. Once it fills up, you can execute a special attack, but it's always better to wait until your allies have it full or are getting close to filling it so you can perform a chain attack. If you do, everyone will execute their special and a joint burst attack will trigger, doing massive damage. If you're wondering if Lyria does anything that blue-haired girl, as she's set there to be a guest character, well, she does. Guest characters will act on their own without your control, and Lyria can be pretty useful with buffs, debuffs, and healing spells. They can't die, unlike you and your playable allies. But in this game, If a character dies, be it a party member or yours, they'll have a cooldown until another character revives them. You can also revive by yourself by mashing any action button, but you only have a limited amount of times to do so. You can also revive a fallen ally by approaching them and smashing the circle button. Like I said, there's a hard mode here, but I didn't try it. On normal mode, I never even once got a game over. Not until the post-game, of course. The game's pretty damn challenging though, especially the boss fights. But on the other hand, because of that feature, it's almost impossible to get a game over. I know that takes some of the true challenge away, but I don't know, I like that. I'm not great at action RPG, so I was grateful for a feature that prevented me from restarting the whole damn mission if I died. Anyway, items are automatically equipped to the D-pad and can be replenished in save points. You only have a limited amount of each. However, you can't buy them in town. That's right, there are no stores that sell potions anywhere, but their numbers can be increased by equipping some sigils. We'll talk about those in a bit. The last thing I want to say about the combat is that the main missions aren't that long and feel just right in terms of time spending, all of them leading to a boss or two. The major boss fights are epic beyond belief. Dare I say exaggerated. I did, however, find them as the best part of the game. It's the true highlight of it. Every single boss has an overdrive bar, and once it fills up, their stats will increase considerably, and will start spamming powerful skills. It gets really dangerous, but also rewardingly intense. I had a lot of fun with most of these bosses. Remember the sigils I mentioned? This game has a weird equipment system, quite minimalistic actually. No armor exists, no weapon shop, no potion shop, nope. Instead, you've got the regular items seller who sells only materials or sigils. Both are acquired in missions, side quests, and chests, but also with the seller. They're used to complete other side quests, which is typical, but also as materials for the blacksmith. Every character has a unique weapon, but a new one can be forged, though they all vary in stats. Weapons can also be upgraded using those materials and money here, pretty much leveling up. Sigils are basically accessories that boost some stats like health, attack, stamina, etc., and can also be upgraded. Characters will have one slot to equip one at the beginning, but by doing side quests, they can unlock more. One good way to gain such rewards is to watch the little character episodes available. They're all in the quest counter. They're told in a visual novel style, but each episode is extremely short, lasting only for a few minutes and fully voiced. The first episodes of every character serve as a background to understand who they are and how they ended up joining the crew. And this, believe it or not, is the only character development you'll get for each in the entire game. The character whose story you watch will also increase stats after every episode, so yeah, watching these little episodes is worth your time. Graphics are remarkably good here, especially on the PS5 version. No frame rate issues, very small resolution drops during combat, but they're barely noticeable. Colors, textures, and character models look very detailed and beautiful for a game that's not even AAA. Music was handled by a few composers, Nobuo Uematsu among them. The soundtrack though is alright. Barely any themes stand out, but it surely didn't disappoint. Now, at the beginning of this review I mentioned there will be a positive segment, a mixed one, and a negative one. Let me get to the mixed one. I have a problem with this game. It feels like a sequel. A sequel to a game we never got. The original Granblue Fantasy was a turn-based RPG released exclusively for freaking phones in 2014, only in Japan! Fortunately, there exists an anime worldwide based on this game, so it is highly recommended to watch it in order to understand who is everyone and where they come from. I'm telling you this because Relink is just like Versus. It acts as if you knew everybody already. I'm not sure why some companies do this, honestly, leave the original games exclusive to Japan and then expect everyone to understand their sequels. Sure, the anime and the character episodes in the game serve the purpose of explaining everything, but it would have been nice to get the original game first ported to consoles or at least on PC. And as I mentioned before, the character episodes are your only character development. Protagonist is basically silent, although she or he have reactions. Choices that don't really affect the story and also narrate some events. The rest of the cast just share opinions on what's going on and react based on their personalities, but that's it. They don't grow, and we never learn anything outside of the small visual novel episodes I mentioned. The game also has extra characters who are part of the universe but never appear in any story cutscene or dialogue. To recruit them, you need crew member cards that you acquire by either progressing through the main story or as a reward for completing certain quests. These characters do talk during battle, but that's it. The only development and actual dialogue they get is, once again, in the character episodes. They're recommended, don't worry. The reading is short and some episodes involve an actual quest with boss fights, but it just didn't have any justifiable reason to be like this. Overall, this circumstance fails in some areas but makes up in others, which is why I said it was a mixed bag for me. Let me get to the negatives now. My first and major complaint is one I have with most modern action RPGs, if not all of them. It's a stupid, unnerving characteristic that's being implemented more and more since the PS3 era. Characters talk constantly during battle, and in this damn game, they never shut up! Seriously, they talk throughout the entire boss battles and sometimes even entire missions. How in blazes am I supposed to read what they say, or hell even hear what they say, when I'm trying to fight? Do developers really expect me to pay attention while trying to execute skills, break enemies, or avoid powerful spells? There's also tutorials appearing right in your face in the middle of a battle, something I also find infuriating nowadays. Bosses are extremely cheap here, especially the major ones. The more you advance, the more epic the fights become. But also, the more exaggerated. Eventually, each starts feeling as if they were the final boss with multiple forms and battles in a row. So epic that when the fight ends, you feel like you've beaten the game, but nope! Something else happens and the story goes on. Their cheapness, however, is my negative highlight here. Most of their attacks in overdrive mode are stupidly hard to avoid, and you end up taking damage no matter what. And that little dodging mechanic I mentioned, I said you can only evade 3 times in a row until the character stops for a few seconds to rest. That leaves you vulnerable among all the damn chaos you face. I understand they did it so players wouldn't abuse it, but I just don't see what's wrong with abusing it. Most other action RPGs let you do that. Even the most experienced players will suck less if they could. Finally, I need to share a thought about the story. I watched part of the anime years ago and never finished it because I found the plot and the characters generic. In this game, the story isn't bad, don't worry. Really, it has its interesting moments and twists, but it's kinda unoriginal. Nearly every cliché in the book is here, characters are stereotyped, most plot twists are predictable, and like I said, the final chapters each feels like it's the end only for something else to happen right afterwards. I don't think the writing is very creative here, but at least it's entertaining. In fact, ironically, the character episodes have a more endearing plot here, since you get proper development and all, than the main story. Let's just say you won't play this game for the plot, it's all about the gameplay, especially the action. I really want to emphasize that because despite my negative rants, the combat easily makes up for every single flaw the game has. After all, it's a video game. How many of those have we played that don't have a stellar story, and yet we love them or we find them addicting? Well, it's because they're very fun to play. Granblue Fantasy Relink isn't the exception. It's a masterwork in terms of battle mechanics, keeping the action intense all the time, challenging and very rewarding. It also features an online multiplayer mode, but you have to pay the PlayStation service to play. I didn't try it out, but I've heard good things about it. As of the making of this video, this game is only available on PS4, PS5 and Windows. So that's my review of Granblue Fantasy Relink. Highly recommended, guys, just don't expect too much out of the story. Thanks for watching, don't forget to subscribe and share this video with your friends. See you next time!